vais commencer par des remerciements parce que c'est pas une salle qu'on a choisie par hasard, on est accueillis par l'équipe de Morning, les Morning Coworking, qui nous accueille gracieusement ici et on les remercie très chaleureusement parce que c'est un très très bel endroit. Merci à vous d'être venus tous, vraiment des nouvelles têtes pour moi aussi et très heureux de vous rencontrer. On a aussi quelques enseignantes qui sont dans la salle et merci d'être là. Et puis cette soirée, elle a été en grande partie organisée par quelqu'un que vous connaissez peut-être déjà, qui est Camille Jacot, qui s'occupe de la Fondation. Et donc merci beaucoup Camille d'avoir organisé cette belle soirée pour notre Fondation.
Bon, écoutez, bonsoir à tous, j'y vais sans les slides pour le moment. On est vraiment effectivement ravis de vous retrouver. La plupart d'entre vous nous ont suivis depuis le tout début en 2016. On voulait peut-être revenir 2 minutes avec vous sur pourquoi on est là ce soir et pourquoi on a créé la Fondation École. D'abord, on est parti de ce problème que vous connaissez peut-être pour certains d'entre vous, qui est qu'aujourd'hui, un enfant sur 5, 20% des enfants arrivent en 6e en sachant mal lire, écrire et calculer. Et c'est 2 fois plus dans les milieux défavorisés, 40%. On a aussi constaté en fait qu'il y avait malgré tout une forme de solution, le slide va arriver, qui est que quand on investit dans la petite enfance, alors on voit, je vais me décaler pour que vous puissiez voir, quand on investit dans la petite enfance, $1 investi dans la petite enfance, c'est $8 de bénéfices pour la société en termes de sécurité, en termes d'éducation, en termes de santé. C'est une analyse qui a été faite par un prix Nobel d'économie qui s'appelle James Ekman. Et donc, on est parti avec Maxime de cette idée pour se dire comment est-ce qu'on pourrait essayer d'avoir, nous, à notre petit niveau, un impact sur ce problème dont on parlait tout à l'heure. Et c'est pour ça qu'on a créé la Fondation École. La Fondation École, l'objectif, c'est de faire de la réussite scolaire une réalité pour tous les enfants. Concrètement, ce que ça veut dire, c'est d'essayer de gommer au maximum l'origine sociale des enfants et des familles en termes de réussite à l'école.
Alors, la plus grande fierté qu'on a, c'est que depuis 4 ans, 73 enfants ont été aidés dans les écoles M. C'est vraiment une grande fierté parce que c'est ce pourquoi la Fondation a été faite, ce pourquoi avec Stéphane on s'est lancé dans ce projet. Et c'est devenu une vraie réalité. Je pense que derrière ça, il y avait une conviction forte qu'on avait, c'est que la mixité sociale dans l'environnement scolaire, dans les écoles, dès la maternelle, c'est un véritable atout pour les enfants, à la fois dans les apprentissages fondamentaux, mais aussi dans leur découverte du monde. Et ça, c'est vraiment essentiel. Et c'est grâce à vous, puisque vous voyez, on est soutenu ce projet, la Fondation, depuis plus de 4 ans, par des mécènes qui sont très fidèles. La plupart sont là depuis le début et nous soutiennent tous les ans, y compris les années plus difficiles. Et à la fois, vous voyez des fondations familiales, des fondations d'entreprise, beaucoup de personnes physiques aussi. Et donc on est vraiment très touchés parce qu'au-delà des fonds, c'est vraiment un message que vous nous portez qui est extrêmement apprécié. Donc merci d'être là ce soir, merci d'être là depuis plusieurs années, merci pour l'avenir. Et peut-être qu'on va prendre 5 minutes pour parler d'une petite fille qui s'appelle Camilla. Elle est arrivée dès la première année, envoyée par les services sociaux de la mairie du 19e à l'École M. Une situation où, dès le départ, on a constaté que Camilla avait des difficultés. Alors, elle ne s'exprimait pas du tout à 3 ans. Elle ne s'exprimait pas du tout, elle avait très peu d'interaction et de liens avec les autres, ne tenait pas du tout le regard, la motricité était très faible. Et donc, on est parti avec vraiment cette ambition que Camilla progresse, rattrape parfois et puis entre en CP. Il y a eu 3 années extrêmement denses à l'implication des équipes enseignantes, de la psychologue des écoles M, d'une psychomotricienne, une très forte implication des parents. Ça a été au départ la première année très compliquée. Vous imaginez pourquoi, il peut y avoir un peu de déni, c'est compliqué, on n'a pas de temps. Et puis progressivement, les parents se sont beaucoup impliqués, ont réalisé, et ça a fait vraiment la différence, puisque cette année, Camilla est en CP, dans un CP qu'on appellerait classique, et elle a vraiment franchi un cap en sortant de cette promotion. Donc voilà, une histoire qu'on voulait partager avec vous, et qui est vraiment une grande fierté pour nous. Et donc,
voilà, alors pour ceux peut-être qui ont eu l'occasion de venir dans nos écoles, de les visiter, je pense que voilà, c'est vraiment un plaisir de voir comment les écoles se déroulent, comment les enfants se développent, et on aimerait en accompagner de plus en plus. Alors, Maxime le disait, on a accompagné 73 enfants depuis le début, c'est déjà ça. On voudrait essayer d'ici 2025 d'en accompagner 300, et puis en 2030 d'en accompagner 1000. Alors pour ça, on a besoin de vous, c'est là que voilà, vous allez être un peu sollicités. On a besoin de votre aide, on a besoin de l'aide de vos proches, autant que possible. Et on s'est fixé un objectif d'ici la fin de l'année, pour se fixer un objectif à court terme, de recueillir 100 000 € de nouveaux dons d'ici le 31 décembre 2021. Alors on sait que la période est compliquée, on sait que voilà, on a de la chance de pouvoir se réunir ce soir, alors que bon, c'est pas forcément toujours évident ces dernières semaines, et peut-être ça sera encore moins les semaines à venir. Et voilà, on a besoin de vous pour ça. On va essayer de se fixer un objectif collectif, on vous en reparlera à la fin de la soirée. Et voilà, et en tout cas merci beaucoup d'être là, que vous donniez ou que vous ne donniez pas. On est ravis de vous avoir à nos côtés depuis le tout début. Et alors, je vais passer en anglais maintenant. Donc la plupart d'entre vous, on vous en a parlé. We're really delighted to have Linda Liukas join us today. She's originally from Finland. It's an interesting story. We met Linda back in 2016 when we were starting the project. We made a trip with Maxime to Helsinki, and we visited schools. We met a lot of fascinating people, including Linda. Linda, she'll tell you more about it, is a children's book author, among other things. She does a lot of different things, and she'll tell you about it. She wrote this book called Hello Ruby, which has been sold about 500,000 times. It's a massive success, translated into over 30 languages. And we're delighted to have Linda participate in our event today and speak, tell you a little more about children and technology. Thank you, Linda.
I'm really happy to be here today with all of you. I know it's a special thing for all of us to share a space together. And even though I'll be talking about technology and computers, I promise you that there's nothing more important than the time we share here together. And I believe that childhood should be spent with humans, and computers are there to help us be more human, do more of the stuff that we humans do well. As mentioned, I'm an illustrator, I'm an author and storyteller from Helsinki, Finland. I moved to Paris in August, and I had the pleasure of immediately finding kindred spirits here in Paris in the field of education. And who knows what kind of collaborations or things we'll develop going forward. Hello Ruby is a book series about the wonderful world of computer science. The protagonist is a fierce young little girl called Ruby, and the books, as mentioned, have been sold to 34 different languages or translated, and it's been my full-time profession for the past 10 years to imagine a more colorful and exciting and fun technology future. One of the recent projects I've been working on is a playground, a physical playground where you can crawl inside of a computer and learn how a computer works through dancing and jumping and crawling and sneaking around. And overall, I think this will be my mission for the next 40 or 50 years to think about how can we make technology approachable for all kinds of learners. And this has been kind of the ethos. I don't know how I would translate it in French. I might need to practice that, but if coding is the next universal language, instead of grammar classes, we also need poetry lessons. And what I mean with that idea is the idea that we don't learn a natural language only by conjugating the verbs. I didn't learn French by doing je m'appelle, tu t'appelles, il s'appelle, il s'appelle. We don't learn a language by only practicing the grammar rules. We learn a language by using it, by singing it, sur le pont d'Avignon, and so forth, by dancing it, by flirting in it, by just using it in a multitude of ways. And for some reason, when we speak about technology, computers, and coding, we don't use a multitude of pedagogical tools to look at these things. We don't dress up as the internet. We don't learn how packets travel on the internet through the different servers or router farms. We don't practice counting binary numbers with candies. And we definitely don't learn how computers work by creating a life-sized version of it. All in all, we never take the abstract ideas of computer science into our fingertips. And we don't learn how computers work, we only learn the vocabulary. So to that end, and we have roughly 15 minutes time here, and we'll have a little discussion with Camille later on. I want to give you 3 short stories and paint a picture of a technological future that the next generation of kids, maybe sitting here in the front row, might have. And because I'm a children's book author, I'm going to do it by doing A, B, and C of technology. So A, it obviously stands for the word algorithm. Algorithm. I think many here recognize the word. They know, oh, it has something to do with the finance world, it has something to do with Facebook. But kids, they know, algorithm, that's simple. It's a step-by-step solution to solve a problem that a human gives to a computer. And if I start to teach algorithms for children, I don't start with the definition. I start with an activity. I show kids these 5 numbers, and I ask them to put the numbers in order of magnitude, so that the smallest is on the left-hand side and the biggest is on the right-hand side. And it takes children roughly 3-4 minutes to do this task. And then I ask them to do these numbers, and they say, oh, it takes so much time. And I ask them to do these numbers, and they say, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And that's good, because a child should never compete with a computer on a task like this. Computers will be always faster, more precise, make less mistakes, just outperform humans on rote mechanical sorting tasks like this. But they still need instructions. And the way a computer would look at a task like this is here. It would look at the 5 numbers, and it would start from the beginning, and it would compare 1 and 56, and it would say, 56 is bigger than 1. Let's leave it like this. It would then move on to the next pair of numbers and compare 56 and 4, and say, 56 is bigger than 4. Let's swap these 2 around. Then it would move on to the next pair of numbers, 56 and 70. This looks okay. It would look at 70 and 20. Let's swap these around. And then it would move all the way to the beginning and repeat this sequence of instructions by comparing 2 pieces of number together until the numbers were in order. Not a very human way of solving the problem, but this is how a computer would approach it. And this here, ladies and gentlemen, this is a bubble sort algorithm, a workhorse algorithm. It's been around since the 1970s. It still powers a lot of the social networks, a lot of the search engines we use today. But it was not written by a computer. It was written by a human. And in this way, when we start to make algorithms understandable for children, when we show them how computers think, we make them understand that it's not about math, it's about writing instructions in a way that a computer can solve a problem. On a social networking site, so many algorithms, from the ads you see to the order in which you see your friends' status updates. And then finally YouTube. Where is the algorithm hiding? All the kids say, when you type something on YouTube, it automatically suggests the thing you're searching for. That's an algorithm. And the videos up next, those are defined by an algorithm. And this is part, I think, of the computer science education we need. We need to give kids a context of their learning. And in no way is this a new idea, because already in the 1950s, Jean Piaget, bless him, said here in France that you can't offer a preconceived vocabulary of ideas and concepts to children. But rather, true learning is grounded in action. And it's that action, I think, that is missing in a lot of computer science education. So 2 more to go. B is for Boolean logic, which stands for the computers we have today. One of my favorite things to do with children is ask them to draw a lot of the ideas they have around technology. Because drawing is a language that doesn't require the abstract skills writing requires. And drawing is something almost all of us are willing to do, especially when we're young. So one of my favorite things to do is ask the children to draw what they imagine is inside of a computer. And this might seem like a seemingly simple activity, but I promise you, even the computer science professors have a hard time answering a question like this, because computers are so abstract. So I've had children who draw apps and files inside of computers. That's correct. That's a metaphor we use to think about computers. I've had kids who imagine these abstract linked networks of different components, also what computers are. I've had kids who draw stories of what happens inside of a computer. I've had kids who even imagine that inside of computers there's tiny gears, and they are not correct. There's no gears inside of a computer, but they grasp something about how the smallest component inside of a computer is very, very small and does a seemingly simple thing. But when you put a lot of them together, they become more and more powerful. And finally, we have the drafters, kids who draw transistors and electricity and different components of the computer. And very importantly, I think all of these children understand that while computers might be magical, they are not made of magic. They are made of logic. And that's a huge thing to understand when you're 6 years old. So computers, we don't really have a good definition to what they are. Computers are abstraction machines. They hide a lot of the complexity and they change form all the time. And that's why it's so important for us to have these discussions about what even are computers and what is inside of them. Because already today, we have hundreds of computers in our home. A microwave is a computer, a telephone is a computer, probably your fridge is a computer, and when you leave work in the morning for the work in the morning, you interact with tens of computers in the first hours of your day. And one of my very favorite activities is one where I give a little tiny on-off button, a little sticker for the children with the on-off button on it. And I ask the children to put that sticker on an everyday object and imagine what it would do if it was a computer. And one little girl, she chose the bicycle lamp there in the middle of the picture, and she put the on-off sticker on it. And she said, Linda, if this bicycle lamp was a computer, I could go on a biking trip with my father. We could sleep in a tent, and this bicycle lamp, it could also be a movie projector. And I love that, because in that moment happens something that rarely happens for us grown-ups, because she understands 3 profound truths about technology. First of them is that she realizes the world is not ready yet. There's so much we haven't invented or discovered, bicycle lamp, movie projector included. The second thing is she realizes that technology is a way to drive progress. It's a way to make the world better. And the third thing is that she can be a part of it. Because for a moment there she felt she could be the world's first computer, bicycle lamp, movie projector maker. And I think it's that sense of self-efficacy, that sense of being able to do something and feel like I belong, that is especially important when we teach technology for the very youngest of children. And then the final story of today. It goes about C, and it is for C, creativity and computers. It has to do with artificial intelligence and machine learning. So AI and machine learning are buzzwords that make a lot of us feel very, very nervous. We think about something that is foreign and weird and scary, and it makes me think about the medieval maps where when you didn't know about something, whether there was something in the southern seas or the northern plains, you wrote, "Here be the dragons, there's something scary here, don't go there." And I think a lot of our adult grown-up relationship to AI is that fear of the unknown. But the children don't deserve that. So the way I teach AI and machine learning is like this. I tell the children that there's a lot of data in the world. Nowadays, when you click something online, when you like a post, when you vote or subscribe to something, when you walk on the streets of Paris, data is being generated. And that data gets collected and transformed into different kinds of services that help our everyday lives. And AI, even though we talk about it as if it's like a human thing, it's really about a machine being given human-like abilities. So even though we say that AI can see, it can communicate, it can move, it can reason, maybe even be creative, what we're actually talking about is a lot of technologies. And the way AI works is this. I would show children a picture of a cat, and I would say, in the past, this picture of a cat would have required lines and lines of code. A programmer would have needed to describe that a cat is an animal with 2 ears and a tail, and it comes in these 6 colors. Nowadays, we do something different. So we ask first the computer if this thing is a cat, and then we gather examples of cats. Because on YouTube, there's nowadays millions and millions of cat videos. So we gather all of that data, that's called training data, and we feed it to the machine. And instead of trying to describe a cat, we allow the computer to build a model of what it thinks a cat looks like. And this is, for a lot of us, the scary part. We don't know exactly how the computer builds a model of how it recognizes a cat. It looks at the thousands of examples and it compares them and tries to find patterns that we humans can't know. But we don't exactly know how human brains work, how we recognize a pineapple or a hairbrush. So I don't know if we should be that worried about it. And then the computer gives an answer. But very importantly, it doesn't give an answer. It gives an estimation, a probability. And this is, I think, where things get interesting. Because when we look at this whole cycle of machine learning project, we can see that there's so many places where we humans are needed. First, we humans are curious. We ask questions like, is this thing a cat? Computers are not curious by nature. We humans need to gather the examples of cats for the computer to learn from, and we need to assess the question and the answer to that question. Because there are problems in the world where it's okay to say that it's 60% certain that this thing here is a snow leopard. But there are problems in our judicial system, in our education system, in our healthcare system, where we definitely want human involvement in decision making. And a lot of my machine learning and AI education for children boils down to this. I think a lot of us will be involved in thinking about the training data sets. So how do we train machine learning systems so that they are not biased? And the training starts at 6 years old. So I show them these 4 pictures of cats, and I ask them which bias, which is a word that means what is kind of the unconscious bias or the thing that the AI understands wrong by only having a limited example amount of cats. And the kids say, oh, it wouldn't recognize a brown cat or a stripy cat. And I say, yes, draw a picture of a stripy cat there. Then we look at teacups. And the kids say, it would not recognize grandma's teacup because it has flowers on it, or a Japanese teacup because it doesn't have a handle on it. And these might seem like innocent examples, but as we are automating more and more of our systems with AI and machine learning, we need to make certain that we are not moving our own biases to these systems so that we accidentally build a machine learning system that only thinks women can be nurses, or likewise. So I'm going to finish off with a final story from a little boy who 4 or 5 years ago came to me and asked, Linda, is the internet a place? And I'm very certain about my answer, and I tell him, oh, you know, internet, it's the information superhighway, it's the global village, you can think about it like that. And then I realized that, oh boy, I sound like a kid of the 1990s. This child, he has never heard the modem sound, he has never used the Minitel system or any other 90s internet thing. He has a completely different kind of internet, invisible everywhere around him. And we need new metaphors and stories to talk about this world. Maybe I should talk to him about the internet, how it's the servers and the hardware, how it's the fiber optic cable that goes from the bottom of the sea all the way to space. Or maybe I should talk about the software of the internet, how it's hundreds of thousands of packets of information that travel around the world 9 times in a second. Or maybe I should talk about the culture, about how the funny cat videos or the memes or the Gangnam styles or the culture that happens when 6 billion of us can finally have a conversation together. And I think this here is the challenge for all of us today. When we are teaching technology, we are not only teaching the hardware side of things, how to use a computer, what is a mouse, what is a screen, what is a keyboard. We are not only teaching software side of things, what is code, what is computer science. And we're not only teaching the societal impact of technology, how our world is changing and how we can use technology for the good self-improvement or self-expression. We are teaching all of these three things at the same time, and they keep changing all the time. And that's what will keep us busy for the upcoming years as well. Thank you very much. S'il y a des questions, je peux...
better.
Maybe we can start with a little discussion and then ask for... No. Perfect.
Thanks a lot. First, I was very impressed in the explanation of technology at kids level, and I was wondering whether you've already tried at the adults level, because until when does this type of explanation do work, trying to go through images, imaginations, and practical side of it versus abstract? Isn't it?
You ask a wonderful question. So first of all, I think the best children's books, they speak to us at different ages and different levels. So I still keep returning to some of my childhood stories, and I think children's books are, in order to explain something to a 6-year-old, you need to be very simple and very clear. But you ask a question that is very timely for me, because for the past fall I've been working on a grown-up book, or a narrative non-fiction book for adults, and I think there's a lot of the same sense of curiosity and sense of wonder and sense of enthrallment that I try to show there as well. So, but I have no idea when it's going to be finished, and it has been way harder than writing for children for me. So we'll see.
Can you tell us about your favorite books? I mean,
Wow, my favorite childhood book. So I don't know if it's Le Moumine. Is it? Yeah, I hear an I. So Tove Jansson, she's a Finn, also from Finland, and she wrote this series of a wacky family that chooses to be a family together, and like the magical woman winter. So definitely a big inspiration for me. I've grown up reading Petit Nicolas aussi when I was in school. So I think some of you might be familiar, and Ecole founders definitely were aware that Finland has this very famous educational system. We've ranked the PISA studies many times in the past with the best math skills, and we've had a lot of people come and see our famous educational system. But there is a secret. It's not that amazing in any way. The only thing we do very differently is the fact that we invest a lot in teachers. Being a teacher is very well respected in Finland. It's a profession that is up there with being a doctor or being the president. It's something that people respect and look up to a lot. And then the other secret sauce is the fact that teachers are given a lot of autonomy in their classroom. So we don't have any centralized testing systems, or barely any, a little bit. I think the first centralized test I did was in 9th grade. And then a lot of free time, so 45-minute classes, half an hour recession, 45-minute classes, half an hour recession, and a lot of vacation time, very little after school. And I think those elements definitely influenced me in the sense that I wanted to make something that is about imagination and play. And in the book, for instance, so it's a storybook about a little girl, but at the end there's activities that help you think like a programmer, or ask you to make a computer out of cardboard, or ask you to interview your grandparents about what kind of technology they use. So it's a lot of play, a lot of open-ended questions, a lot of room for wonder. So in that sense, yes.
Okay, so I really loved what you said about teachers. So I think it's a very nice way to stop. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for this disruptive and diversive way to see computer science. So thanks a lot.
Merci à tous.